DJ, you go crazy.
Recently here in Chicago, actually this past Sunday, which was Mother's Day.
Okay.
Her name was Alicia Carter. She was 33 years old, Chicago police officer.
Okay.
She was found dead in her home. When you watch the news clipping, the reporter is going to say the cause of death has not been determined.
Okay.
This didn't get as much attention as Arèanah Preston.
Okay.
You know, so it kind of going to the conversation we was having about the media, right?
Yes.
But it seemed like it's just a reoccurrence going on right now. Chicago police female officers, cause of death undetermined.
I sure hope not that we are seeing some kind of pattern, of attacks against female police officers. I hope that that is not the case, because that would absolutely be, devastating, and it's just terrible. I think, like, I hadn't heard about this second one that you're talking about. I just pray that it's, that the truth comes out, that the truth comes out, just like with the young lady, Preston is the last name? Yeah, Officer Preston. I just pray that the truth comes out in her particular case. I see enough that it would make me question anything that I read in the newspapers, because remember, whoever has the information controls the narrative, and so the narrative can be directed for whatever purpose the director wants the narrative to go. Exactly. You got to always remember that.
Yeah.
And so, some of these situations, we may never know what's really going on behind the scenes. Yeah. But I guess if I had to speak to a woman in law enforcement here in Chicago, in this environment that we have, in this culture that we have, I would just say, just be careful and use your guts, use your wits, use common sense, and don't let your guards down. You have a tough job to do, and we appreciate your service and everything, but at the end of the day, we want to see you go home to your family. And so that's the most important thing. These young women are being taken from their families. That's tragic. Yeah. I was almost taken from my family. That would have been tragic. So I know what it's like to work for the police department under the threat of losing your life, from a gang hit or something like that. I know what that's like. It's a terrible feeling.
When we talk about corruption, that brings forth like a political conversation, right?
It could, yeah.
How high up does the corruption go? How high have you seen? Because I know you said you used to report to the superiors, right?
Yes.
How high did you make it up the chains? I guess what I'm trying to ask.
In my honest opinion, based on the little window of time that we're talking about my scenario, not about anything that's going on now, because I've been out of the pictures over 20-some years, 26, 27 years. So what I'm getting ready to speak about, my opinion, is about the culture at the time when I was an officer.
And that's what I'm asking.
I felt that it had gone up as high as internal affairs. Okay. And it probably could have gone up even higher than that. But I just feel like internal affairs was the main part of it. And these people, and why I believe that was important now in retrospect, because if you're reported to do something, if someone makes a report of corruption against you, the internal affairs is the people that's going to investigate it.
Right.
The people that were involved in my situation had multiple complaints against them about corruption and different things like that were supposed to be investigated and adjudicated by the internal affairs, and they didn't do anything. And so it was clear that they were involved in it to some degree. And like I had mentioned also, I don't think that it was appropriate for, if I get into a shootout with internal affairs, for that same unit, those same officers, to investigate the shooting. that's definitely biased. And that's exactly what happened in my particular case. They handled the whole thing. They even had the guy that I got into the physical shootout with. They had him doing investigative work for a case where he was the complainant. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It was like no separation. So whatever, they had the information, they controlled the narrative. That's why I got fired. Yeah.
And what is it about your story? Because I heard you say, I've been waiting 28 years to get this off my chest, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what's been bothering you for 28 years?
The fact that I was never cleared in public. Okay. I never received an apology from the police department for trashing my name, my reputation, for all of the things that they did to me. One of the most insulting things that happened to me in all of this was on 80th and Western, when we were right after the shootout, and the IAD and all the people came and they switched it around, because at first they had the person that I had the shootout with, which I didn't know was an officer at the time. They had him in custody, and then they came and they switched it all around. They put me in custody. At that time, this big fat sergeant, his name was Bukowski, he comes over to me while I'm out there on the street and rips my police badge off. Bitch, you don't deserve to wear that. And that, I never forget that. I know it may sound strange. I remember every name of every motherfucker involved in my situation. Mm-hmm. I remember their faces. I remember their names. I remember what they did. I remember the lies that they told. So he rips my badge off. They come and they tow my cars, dragging them down the street. It was like we were, you know how they say you're innocent until proven guilty? We were proven guilty right there on the scene by the entire police department. And that bothered me all those years. They never gave me a chance, a fair chance, a fighting chance to show my receipts. And the people knew, that this was some bullshit. And so for the 26 years, I had to deal with that. When this stuff first happened, every new relationship that I would have, meet a new friend, a new job or whatever, I always felt like I had to prove my innocence to people, because some kind of way they would find out, because my stuff is still on the internet. Mm-hmm. And people would find out and they'd be like, oh, you was that officer? And so, and then I'm trying to always, no, it's not what you think and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that that's my place to have to clear my name. The police department owes me an apology and a bag. Mm-hmm. I lost my pension. I lost my house. I lost a ton of money out of all of this stuff. All because I chose to do the right thing that was right in my sight. Mm-hmm. And they just swept me up under the rug, like I never existed. And then one of the most insulting things that I have in my receipt, Sergeant Stephen Jackson, when his daughter worked with me in patrol in the Inglewood district, but this was her father that was the detective from Internal Affairs that was processing the case, one of us. He used to refer to me as bitch, you lying. He would just be so rude and everything. And so this particular sergeant, he writes in the report, when he asked me during the interview, why would anybody want to kill you? Yeah. Why would anybody want to put a hit out on you? To me, he devalued me, and I just never forget it. I just feel like they owe me an apology for what they did to me. Mm-hmm. And during this time that it first happened, you get depressed and different things like that. And so the police union had given me a number to a psychologist to talk to, because this was a lot of stuff. I'm involved in a shootout now. I'm accused and all that kind of stuff. And so I called the psychologist that I was referred to set up the appointment. And so he took my call, and this was his response. Oh yeah, so you that crooked cop that got in that shootout on 79th. This is what the professional psychologist that's supposed to talk to me about my mental issues. I've been in a shootout. I need some professional help.
He said, "Oh, you that crooked cop."
Right. You that crooked cop.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So I couldn't get no love from nobody.
Right.
I would even go to churches, try to talk to pastors and stuff. Everybody judged me off of what they read. They never gave me the benefit of the doubt. Never gave me the benefit of the doubt.
And, back then we didn't have the internet and social media and stuff like that. But I'm assuming this story was viral.
Yes.
Back then.
Yeah, it was on Eyewitness News. We had Russ Ewing was like one of the good, famous reporters or whatever. It was on all of the major networks. It was it was the leading story for the 6 o'clock news because it had happened at about 5 p.m., something like that. And it was the leading story that night. And so it was, like I said, it was all over the news.
Did they have like your picture on it?
They never published my picture. Okay. They never did that, but they published Jeff's picture.
Right.
Yeah, they had his information.
Right.
Yeah. But it was terrible. They trashed my reputation. My neighbors had bought a house in Beverly, and my neighbors their kids would tell my niece and my son that your mom is a crooked cop. Different things like that. And it's all because of the information that they put out in the media. Right. Yeah. And then the audacity of the police department to try to say that incident where this vehicle is following me and I make the illegal turn. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're trying to say that at that particular time, the person that was behind me that mimicked my illegal traffic maneuver was doing that for the purpose of surveillance. That you would have to be the dumbest person in the world to believe that. Right. and it's written in the report that his reasoning for committing that same maneuver was for surveillance purposes.
And surveillance on who?
Me. The purpose of surveillance is that you're supposed to be observed without knowing that you're being observed. Okay. So how could you call that surveillance? That mimicked behavior for a hit.
For sure.
But the reports that the Internal Affairs wrote up say that I should have assumed that was for my protection. Right. That's so ludicrous. Makes absolutely no sense. Yeah.
DJ, you go crazy.